Zara's 4 arms hung limp at her sides as she watched the other younglings play gravball in the recreation dome. Their chitinous exoskeletons gleamed under the artificial suns, their movements fluid and graceful as they manipulated the floating sphere with practiced ease. The Cathari were naturally gifted at the sport. Their multiple limbs and enhanced reflexes made them perfect players. All except Zara. The neural damage from her hatching had left 2 of her arms permanently paralyzed, and her coordination was far from the perfection her species demanded. When the recreation supervisor approached her again with the worn gravball, she turned her compound eyes away in shame. "I cannot play," she clicked in the musical language of her people. "You know this." From across the dome, Jake Martinez watched the interaction with growing frustration. The human mechanic had been assigned to maintain the station's recreational facilities for the past 6 months, and every day he witnessed the same scene. The kid, though Zara was probably equivalent to a human teenager, sat alone while others played. Jake had seen enough exclusion in his own childhood to recognize it, and it made his blood boil. That evening, Jake worked late in his workshop, surrounded by discarded machinery and half-finished projects. His colleagues often joked that humans were the galaxy's ultimate tinkerers, unable to see a problem without immediately trying to fix it. Tonight, that compulsion burned brighter than ever. The gravball system was elegant in its simplicity. Magnetic field generators created zones of altered gravity, while players used neural interfaces to manipulate their movements and control the ball. For a species with 4 functioning arms and perfect neural pathways, it was child's play. But what if the game didn't require 4 arms? What if it didn't require arms at all? Jake's hands moved with practiced precision as he dismantled old neural interface components. The Galactic Council had strict regulations about modifying alien technology, but they said nothing about human ingenuity applied to human-built alternatives. 3 days later, Jake approached Zara during her usual solitary vigil. The young Cathari looked up with mild curiosity as the human knelt beside her, a strange device in his hands. "What is that?" she asked, her translator rendering her musical, clicks into standard galactic. "An equalizer," Jake said with a grin. "Mind if I show you something?" The device looked nothing like the sleek Cathari neural interfaces. It was bulky, cobbled together from spare parts, with cables and jury-rigged components that would have made any engineer cringe. But when Jake activated it, something extraordinary happened. The gravball lifted from the floor, responding not to neural commands from limbs, but to something far more fundamental, intention itself. Jake's modified interface read brainwave patterns directly, translating thought into action without requiring the complex motor coordination that Zara lacked. "This is impossible," Zara breathed, her compound eyes reflecting the floating ball's glow. "The neural pathways required for gravball are—" "Bullshit," Jake interrupted, then quickly apologized for the harsh human expletive. "Sorry, but that's exactly the kind of thinking that's kept you on the sidelines. Your brain works fine, Zara. It's just the interface that's wrong." Over the following weeks, Jake refined his device while teaching Zara its use. The other younglings initially mocked the crude human technology, but their laughter died as Zara began to play with increasing skill. Her 2 functional arms provided balance and stability, while her mind controlled the ball's movement with a precision that shocked everyone. The breakthrough came during the station's monthly tournament. Zara had finally agreed to participate, though she trembled with nervousness as she entered the arena. The crowd of various alien species fell silent as they noticed the strange human device attached to her head. Her opponent, Crix, was the reigning champion, a perfect specimen of Cathari physical prowess with scores that approached theoretical maximums. He looked at Zara with barely concealed contempt. "The crippled one thinks human scrap can make her whole," he chittered to his friends. "This will be amusing." The match began with Crix dominating, his four arms working in perfect harmony to control the ball. But as the game progressed, something unprecedented happened. Zara's playing style was unlike anything the Cathari had ever seen. Where they relied on physical manipulation, she used pure mental focus. Where they employed brute force, she demonstrated finesse. Jake watched from the maintenance booth, his heart pounding as Zara scored her first point, then her second. The crowd's murmur grew louder with each impossible move. "How is she doing that?" asked Dr. Venth, the station's chief medical officer. The elderly Cathari had approached Jake during the match, her scientific curiosity overriding protocol. "She's thinking the ball into position," Jake explained. "No physical limitations, no coordination issues, just pure intention translated into action." By the match's end, Zara had not only won, but had shattered every scoring record in the process. The arena erupted in confused cheers as the impossible happened. The disabled youngling had become champion. Later, as the celebrations died down, Zara found Jake in his workshop. She moved with new confidence, her bearing transformed by the day's events. "Why?" she asked simply. "Why did you do this for me?" Jake looked up from his workbench, where he was already sketching improvements for the next version of the device. "Because everyone deserves a chance to play," he said. "And because humans have a saying, it's not about the cards you're dealt, it's about how you play the hand." Zara tilted her head in confusion. "I do not understand this metaphor." Jake laughed. "It means that limitations only exist if you accept them. My species learned a long time ago that the only real disability is giving up." Word of the modified gravball interface spread throughout the station, then to other colonies. Soon, Jake found himself inundated with requests from disabled individuals across dozens of species. Each case required custom solutions, each problem demanded innovative thinking. The Galactic Council initially viewed Jake's modifications with suspicion, but the results spoke for themselves. Disabled beings who had been relegated to the margins of society were suddenly participating, competing, excelling. What had started as one human's refusal to accept impossible had become a movement. 6 months after that first tournament, Zara stood before the Galactic Sports Commission as they officially adopted Jake's interface technology for universal use. Her 2 paralyzed arms no longer seemed like limitations. They were simply part of who she was. "The human taught us that adaptation is not about changing ourselves to fit the game," she told the assembly. "It is about changing the game to include everyone." In his workshop, Jake smiled as he watched the broadcast. He was already working on his next project, a mobility device for a young Vrathari whose species' natural flight had been compromised by injury. After all, there was always another problem to solve, another limitation to overcome. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was refusing to accept that anything was truly impossible. The universe was full of disabled beings who had been told they couldn't play. Jake Martinez had decided that was unacceptable, and when humans decided something was unacceptable, they had a tendency to change the entire galaxy to fix it.